and welcome to the summer series. Is it hot enough for everyone? We're having a heat wave here in Philadelphia, but I don't mind it. I don't think it's like that bad just yet. I haven't even really used my air conditioner. I found a trick recently that we have like these mini splits that you probably can't see in the background, but apparently if you put them on dehumidifier, you don't need to run the AC because it takes the humidity out of the area. This like cools down the house. So that's been a trick that I've been using so far, and so far so good. I can sleep fine at night. Um, okay, so this series is about quick, simple, and satisfying meals, and we're going to start off with this series focusing mainly on summer because that's the season that we're in right now. And if this turns out to be hit, then maybe we'll carry things on like and do things seasonal. I must say that I could probably profess to be the queen of quick and simple meals because I'm busy a lot and I love to eat and I cook pretty much every day, more than once a day, because I need to eat. But certain times, like when, especially like during the day, if I have other work to do, and that I just really don't want to be bogged down with like a whole lot of preparation. And I don't want to be bogged down then with like a ton of cleanup too, because that's just as annoying as everything else. And I really don't want to sit there and like make it like a marathon lunch. For me, it's better to just have a very quick, simple lunch where, I'm finished in a matter of 40 minutes. I can take my time. And even in the summertime, if I have left food and lighter food, then 30 minutes is plenty of time. I know that, like in the past, I've worked, when I was a social worker, I worked in schools, I've worked in hospitals, and, like a whole different venue of situations. And you really don't really have a lot of time to eat. You have so much time that's allowed, and then you have to like get back to work because if you're working with kids and they're in the classroom and you're still hanging out eating lunch, that doesn't work out so well. So tends to not make people in the classroom very happy, at least your supervisors. Okay, so um, point number one, the advantages to simple and quick meals. So it has to do with the simplicity of dishes while also enjoying a complete meal. So that's number one. You really want to make sure that your meals are complete, meaning that they have grains, they have vegetables, they have protein included in there, because I think, like if you include protein regularly, you're going to feel a lot more satisfied. So first advantage, obviously spending less time in the kitchen cooking. When you spend less time in the kitchen cooking, then you can spend more time doing things that you may want to do, like garden, like clean your house, like prepare a handout, or talk to friends, or just like, like your work that you have to do in general, whether, again, you like work in a hospital, or maybe you work in a school, or maybe you work in an office. Doesn't matter where you work. Maybe you work construction or landscaping, like you still really have to get back in the swing of getting back to work. So the less time you spend um, on cooking and having a whole lot to eat, the more time you can spend on focusing on the things that you either have to do or things that you ideally want to do. And then during the summertime, it's less time in front of a hot stove, and that can be pretty significant. I know that I have mini splits in my house here, which are fantastic because you can only cool down one room if you want to. But my kitchen does not have anything like that. And, like you have to run that exhaust fan to keep things going, but it still can get like really hot depending on the amount of food that you're preparing and how much time things are cooking on the stove. Maybe, like you're cooking for a group of people. So again, if you make things much more simple, that cuts down maybe the amount of dishes and the time itself. You're not standing over a stove for like 3 hours or 2 hours. Obviously, it shortens your cleanup. The less dishes that you have prepared and the less like little moving parts to the dishes, the less you have to clean up. And then the last and final point of this is it actually allows for more freshly consumed food. So things that are made more frequently. So I do like to use leftovers, with the exception of fresh salads. I like to make enough for that proportion, and then, um, like if I'm going to have a salad the next day, then I would prefer to just like make a new fresh salad. Same thing with quick sautéed vegetables. I don't really like using them as leftovers. My preference is to just, like make that dish and consume what I'm going to eat. And I'm pretty good with portioning out things. So when you are doing this, you want to keep in mind quantity. Um, Things that take maybe a little bit longer and would carry over for another day, which I'll address in another part of this lecture, then you would make extra. But things that are very quick, only make what you're going to consume. Satisfying meals is the second point. So you want all the meals to be complete and balanced. And the basis of a complete and balanced meal, as we had talked about in previous classes over the years and more recently in the menu planning series, the basis of a complete meal is having grains, vegetables, and I would like to add protein to that too. Especially as we age, then we need to consume more protein. Keeps us more relaxed, keeps our bones strong, keeps our muscles and tendons nice and strong and plump, and keeps our skin good. So, including protein is very, very important. And it's very satisfying. Protein is actually relaxing too. So, that's something that you want to keep in mind. So, a barometer is that when you're finished with the meal, like maybe you want to take something a little sweet, like maybe you want to have a little bit of fresh fruit. And that's quick and that's easy. You just have to like wash it and eat it. Or maybe you have something that you prepared in advance that you want to finish at the end of the meal. But the barometer is that you're not really searching or longing for something else. So that's not just like after the meal itself, but that carries on for the next several hours. And depending on the time of day that you're doing the quick meal, so if it's at lunchtime, then ideally you want that to carry you over to your next meal. If it's at night and you're having something quick and simple, then you want to carry that over where you're feeling satisfied enough that you sleep well that night and you rise and wake early in the morning. If you find yourself waking up hungry, or if you find yourself like you're like ready for bed, but you're like starving and you can't relax, then your meal just like simply wasn't satisfied enough. That brings us to the third point, the key essentials for satisfying meals. Number one, make your food tasty and rich enough to feel relaxed. And when I say tasty, that's use of salt seasonings together with oil. And that is really, really key. I can't tell you how many times I've eaten, and it could even like be out where they didn't like season something enough and maybe used a little bit too much oil, or maybe, like they didn't use like enough oil and everything was like kind of like very bland. And again, like not seasoned well enough. So that's those are two key components in making your meals more satisfying. You want to use oil and other rich foods in your cooking. So olive oil and sesame oil are the two most important oils, but together with that, you can use things like tahini. You can use other nut butters, like peanut sauces work well on noodles and other dips. And maybe using that in like one of the cooking classes. Using things like avocados in dishes, whether it's as a sandwich spread or making guacamole or in a salad, or you could, like just like use it together with a lot of other things, just like as a spread or something. Using foods like tempeh and tofu. Tempeh is a little bit more dense in its richness. It's a good quality protein. It contains, I think, all the complete chains of amino acids, and it tends to be very satisfying. And you pair tempeh with avocado, and you've got yourself a really winning combination. Tofu is another thing that adding tofu to different things, like a little tofu cheese to a salad, or tofu cheese to a sea vegetable dish, or other things, or even like a tofu sandwich, whether it's seasoned or not seasoned. One of the classes that we're going to be doing is going to be sandwiches. And I know I've taught sandwiches before, but I'm always coming up with new ones because that's my favorite ballpark meal, a sandwich. And then using things like anchovies too. And recently I've been using anchovies in different preparations with like different pasta dishes. I've used it together in tofu scrambles. Um, it adds a little bit of flavor, but for me, I still don't want that overpowering fishy taste of an anchovy. So I can disguise it really, really well when I pair it together with different onions. In a pasta dish or a noodle dish, I allow that to simmer and melt in there. If I'm doing tofu scramble again, I allow it to like simmer in there, and I add other leafy greens and spices, and that hides it pretty well. But that adds a lot of really good flavor. Plus, it has a whole lot of omega-3s. I think I was reading a couple months ago when I was talking, I just decided to look about the nutritional qualities of an anchovy, because I was thinking about a dish that I wanted to do with an anchovy as opposed to like the small little fishes that are Japanese. And so I've decided, okay, like let's just like look it up. So it has so many omega-3s that 2 fillets of anchovies is enough for one adult. You get like all your omega-3s in one sitting right there. So that's a win-win. And then other seasonings, savory. You want savory, so salty enough, meaning you want mild sweet in there. Mild sour is another thing. Use of spices, use of things that like olives or capers, things like harissa, yuzu. And I have some other Japanese products that have like a little bit of like spice to it and mixed with yuzu and mixed with a little bit of sea salt. All these things, mustard too, that's another thing, horseradish. A lot of these things you can add to different dishes, and it just adds a noodle zing and a twist. Today I made a really lovely seaweed salad with wakame and cucumber, a little bit of tofu cheese. And I just seasoned that with a little bit of shoyu, ume vinegar, and yuzu. It was absolutely delicious and completely refreshing. So maybe that's one of the dishes that I'll show you guys, share with you, because I thought it was very, very easy and very satisfying. So you want to keep things fresh and refreshing. So when I say refreshing, meaning that you want to include a light vegetable dish with every meal, especially in the summertime. So light vegetable dishes tend to have a crunch to them. The crunch itself adds a lot of satisfaction. Together with that, a lot of the light vegetable dishes have a little bit of moisture to them. That keeps you more hydrated. So again, so you don't have to drink as much water. You want to drink a fair amount, but you don't want to constantly be drinking water either. So when you eat things like blanched vegetable salad, for example. So blanched vegetable salad, when you're blanching, it brings the water soluble vitamins to the surface. When you drink water, you're hydrating yourself, but you're also going to lose minerals and lose the water soluble vitamins out in your urination. When you eat blanched vegetable salad, you're replenishing all that. So you want to keep little things like that in mind. And then use of things like fresh herbs. So they can be used in soups, they can be used in sandwiches, things like guacamole. Cilantro is delicious. I like cilantro in different soups, and in just like other sandwiches too. If you don't like cilantro, you could substitute Thai basil or lemon basil. Those are delicious in different soups. Obviously, pasta is fantastic with different fresh herbs. Parsley is great and very, very easy parsley dish. One of my favorites is just sauteed red onion and chopped parsley. Perfect. Um, and then fresh herbs can also be used in salads. Recently, I've been growing green shiso, which is hard to grow because oftentimes it'll come in a mixed seed package, and you end up getting a lot of the red stuff, but you don't always get the green stuff. But a lot of green shiso has been reseeding itself in my garden, so I'm very, very happy with that. So I use those green shiso leaves in fresh juices. They give off a little mild minty flavor. I like them in different salads and other dishes too. I like them chopped up fine and served with rice too. And then use some citrus. So citrus is great on greens. So when you're steaming greens, a little fresh squeezed lemon, that also helps bring out more of the mineral aspects of the vegetable. You can use citrus in salads, in juices, in bean dishes, and in grain dishes, and in some pasta dishes. So a lot of citrus, whether you're consuming it in a juice or using it fresh, like on a vegetable dish or bean dish, a little citrus goes a long way in keeping things very fresh. And then finally, the last part and the last point I want to make is planning in advance. I cannot tell you enough that you really, really want to try to plan in advance. When I say plan in advance, I'm not saying like, okay, you have to make this elaborate meal plan or anything like that, or just like say, of course that helps. Also helps budget your money too. But you want to keep certain staples in the house. When I say staple items, not only is that good in case like some natural disaster happens, so it's always good to keep like things like canned beans, plenty of grains, plenty of noodles, plenty of pastas, and like extra bottles of seasoning, things like umeboshi. Yes, that's wonderful to keep all that. But it also is fantastic in a pinch because you don't have to like wander around and say like, oh, I would love to eat this, but I don't have that. Or I'd like some beans, but I don't have time to make them. But if you have a can of beans there, it's very easy to open a can of beans, drain off the water, rinse it off, and use it however you want. So that's one of the ways that you can plan. Um, you could also designate a day for cooking, or maybe several days, and you make some things that last long, but maybe a little bit more time consuming. So for me, that could be some beans. You can make a pot of beans, and you can just take those beans a little bit at a time. Say, for example, you made a pot of cannellini beans. They don't take long to cook. They probably take longer to soak because you want to soak them a good 8 hours or overnight. And then you can prepare them in a pressure cooker, and you could lightly season with salt and then allow it to cool down and put it in the refrigerator. You can even like portion it out in little Pyrex dishes. And you one day you can make beans with greens. Another day, maybe you can add beans to pasta or beans to pasta and pasta fagioli, or you can add and do a bean salad, or you could, like make beans with tomato. There's so many different things that you can do that even though it's the same bean you're using, you probably won't get tired of it because you're consuming it in a lot of different ways and getting plenty of variety that way. Other things to prepare in advance, things like tempeh. So tempeh you can cook off. I recommend cooking that anyway, where you're boiling it with a little bit of shoyu, some ginger, and some kombu, and that will keep in the refrigerator. You can either toss the cooking liquid or you could keep it marinated in there. Keep in mind, if it's really well seasoned, then you don't want it to continue to absorb more salt. So I would recommend, if you're going to keep it in the brine, then you want to season that a little bit more mild. But that will keep for like a good week, probably like even a week and a half. And depending on your refrigerator and how you're storing it, I like Pyrex, and like that could keep like a good week and a half, almost 2 weeks. But that tempeh can be used in a salad. You could make tempeh with couscous. You could make tempeh with vegetables, whether it's a quick dish or a longer saute dish. There's a lot you can do. You can do tempeh croutons with like an avocado dressing. So like an avocado Caesar salad, but with tempeh croutons. That's really delicious. Delicious, excuse me. It's rich and the tempeh has already been prepared, so the hard part's already done. Same thing with hummus. I made hummus the other week because I get together with friends on the weekend and we do different things. We'd like to go to different antique shops, and then sometimes we hit some craft brew pubs, which is fun. So oftentimes they'll have a food truck there, nothing that I'm going to want to eat. So we got this great idea that we'll take things, and I was like, well, I'll make some hummus. I made some hummus, and I used the recipe in my book, and I took half of it along, and I left the rest here because it does make quite a bit. And that hummus lasted for 2 weeks, maybe even 2.5 weeks, much longer than store-bought hummus. So the time that you're spending doing that, you're actually saving money. It's cutting your costs down, number one. You're getting a much better quality ingredients. And because of the ingredients that I use in my recipes, it's going to keep much longer. So that's a win-win too. Grain dishes. So grains will keep their energy for up to 3 days. Now, the exception could be polenta. Polenta, you can make a tray of polenta, and that too will last several days. Same thing with couscous. That tends to last very long. So there's a lot of different things you can do. Oftentimes, if I want to add like little red onions, I think they're better pickled slightly to my salads, I'll make a whole bunch and I'll put that in a Pyrex and I'll use little bits at a time. So like, yeah, day to day, do they get maybe stronger because they're pickling a little bit more? Yes, maybe, but they're not salty at all. I keep them really, really mild, just a few granules of salt. And it's, again, something very, very easy to do that you can do in advance. I do the same thing with tofu cheese. I make it mild and I'll use what I want for the night and I keep the rest in the refrigerator. So then I could use it randomly as I want. And that also keeps for a couple days. Since it's herb season, pesto. Pesto is a great thing to prepare in the summertime, and you can mix and match pestos. It's great with the lemon pesto, lemon basil. It's great with the sweet basil. Sometimes I mix and match, but that you can freeze in tiny little jars and top it off with a little olive oil, and that keeps very well for several years, actually. So there's a lot you can do there, and things that you do again and want to like plan in advance. So those are the points that I have to share with you today. And I'm not sure what time it is. I would now like to open this up for questions or comments.
I'm just going to say something. May I?
Sure.
Yes. You know, I'm very glad because by listening what you just said, I realize my cooking in my kitchen is perfect because this is exactly what I do. I really need my complete meal, at least one every day, with my grain, my vegetables, my protein, because I only eat one meal a day, really, and I'm happy with it. And it works very well for me. I completely eliminated cookies and after meal, and I feel so much better with no sugar. I eat one apple now if I have a little craving of something. And yes, so I'm glad I listened what you said in the past because I think I am on the right track, Susan. And so thank you very much for sharing with us. And I wrote what you said, and I will use few things, you know, especially the herbs, as you said, the pesto. I got it from my garden too. So, and so thank you so much, Suzanne. I just want to say thank you so much for the good teachings. Thank you. Thank you
You're
very much.
welcome. Thank you for the nice comments.
Ah, you're welcome.
Much appreciated.
Ah.
I have a question here. How did you prepare and season tempeh?
Tempeh, it's in our book, The Ultimate Guide to Eating for Longevity. And you can even use a little less salt that I did in that. You just take it out of the package. I like Rhapsody Tempeh if you're more local here. And then you just measure out the water, add a little shoyu to it, slice a few things of ginger in there. If you wanted to get fancy and slice some turmeric in there, you could do that as well. And then you just put the tempeh to cover, bring it to a boil. I don't close it off completely because I don't want to mess on my stove. So I leave a little bit of airspace there. I crack the lid a little bit. And then I just like put it on low after it comes to a boil and simmer for 20 minutes, like 15, 20 minutes. Usually it ends up being 20 with me. Then I just like let it cool down. And I usually keep a little bit of the liquid there. And you want kombu in there too. I don't really know if I said kombu. I started doing that when I had a cafe, as part of the school, when we had our own site thing, we had a cafe and they just like kind of came up with that method. I actually used to like fry it on either side first too, and then simmer it. And it was good because it literally like it kept for almost 2 weeks. And that's a commercial refrigerator though, like a really good refrigerator. That's one thing that like if you don't have, you might want to invest in a good fridge. I have two here that you can probably see in the background. I have a Bosch, and then the second fridge that I have to store grains, because getting those little grain moths and the weevils, that I don't get that in there now. So that's also stores cat food. uh that's a Beko, and that was a not an expensive refrigerator at all. It's rated the top refrigerator in Europe. So I think they're made in Turkey.
So, Suzanne, you just talked about lunch. What about breakfast for the summer? I mean, I still go with my miso soup. So, what would you
Oh, um, I don't have a lot of miso soup in the summertime. I don't. It's just I don't have a taste for it. More recently, sometimes like depending on what I've done and if I did a lot of activity and ate kind of like earlier, but like didn't eat throughout the night, then I'll eat something in the morning for breakfast. So I'll still eat. A comfort food for me is oatmeal with like fresh strawberries. Simply because my grandmother, my nana used to make that for me. I used to go to her house and watch cartoons in the morning every Saturday. She would make oatmeal and put cut strawberries in there. But sometimes it could be couscous or sometimes it could be like bulgur, but or maybe a piece of steamed bread with tahini and jam and or kimchi. But mostly in the warm weather, what I've been doing is I've been making fresh juices. Not a smoothie, but it's been a pretty fair. And I switch off to different things. I don't do like the same juice every day. I like to make use different combinations, but uh, that had been make. I was feeling a little bit, I guess, like sluggish and tired, and felt like I just was getting too young. So, because I had a lot of backyard work and stuff like that. Between that and the new argument is with the insurance company, or the new battle, I should say. The fresh juice really has gone a long way, and that I like to put like the fresh shiso leaves in there too, the green shiso. So just like a little bit of mint flavor or parsley, like sometimes cucumber, sometimes like carrot. That just like like if it's going to lend itself to more of the green side, then I stick with that theme and like the green apple maybe or whatever. But if it's going to be like a carrot juice, then I stick with kind of like a different theme, because I like it has to be a nice color. Nothing bitter. Any other questions? Gosh. I'm a quiet crowd tonight. So we have Josephine and Monica. I don't know
Yeah.
who wants. Go ahead, Monica.
You mentioned using like a peanut sauce on noodles, and I know there's a thing about not using nut butters and grains, but that would be awesome to do a peanut, because peanuts are actually not right, they're a bean. So, but anyway, because that's always been in my head, like don't use the nut butter on the grain.
They can be so like peanuts can be hard for some people to digest, but don't you remember like you've never been to a Chinese restaurant where they do like the sesame noodles?
Yeah.
So or even like spring rolls. I like a peanut sauce with that, like a spicy, like kind of like peanut sauce. That's one of the things that we make when we go camping. Um, uh, because like even though kids have grown up, like people like the little like summer rolls with different things. So I probably will make that in my first class. And usually the way I do it is I do like a sesame. I don't have the proportions written down specifically, but I do like a tahini kind of sauce, but like thin, real thin. And then I'll add a little bit of like crunchy like peanut butter, or you could just use like chopped like peanuts. Like peanut sauce gets a little bit more of a sweet flavor, where the other is a little bit more, you want to keep it thin though, for the most part. Otherwise, it just gets like too dense and heavy. And I personally like it more spicy. True confessions. I was at the I goofed, and the reason I had to switch this class was because I had yesterday was one of my baseball games that I forgot that we had exchanged for in the beginning of the year. And because it was like, like a really early start, I mean, often I'll take my food, but my intention was to like eat at home and then go. And I was just like, I'm not going to make it in time. So I packed myself a lunch. And I made quick like these soba noodles and it had all this stuff in. And then I put like a bunch of kimchi like on the side there to like make these kimchi noodles. And then I didn't think. I opened it up and my friend was just like, whoo. Like, I'm so sorry. So I'm apologizing to my friend on one side and then apologizing to a complete stranger who's sitting on the other side for like the kimchi. She's like, oh, it's okay. I like it. And then I had like a salad with me too. But yeah, it's pretty funny. Josephine?
With tofu, there's some form of protein and also beans. Would you say that they're both important because not only just for variety, but also for variety of the protein,
I
amount of
think they're both,
protein?
yeah. I mean, like a lot of my clients, I recommend them to have like both.
Mhm.
Like a serving of beans and like tofu almost daily, like, or even like beans, and you could have like fish in another meal. Yeah, a lot of the people I see, I tell them to have like a lot of different protein things, because I think especially in today with like the pressure and everything that's been going on in society, but I think that number one, protein, as I said, it keeps us more relaxed. So tofu is very relaxing, but tofu is really contains like all the complete amino acids because it's made from a soybean. Soybeans are like pretty like powerful stuff. So you're getting a lot out of tofu, even more so nutritionally speaking than like some actual bean dishes. It's interesting, right? And you can just like it's so versatile. It's good in soups, like it's good like in salad things. You can make tofu salads for the summer. That'll keep for several days. You can make a tofu salmon salad if you like something like that. You could probably do a tofu sardine salad. I'm not a sardine fan, but could you do that very easily? Could I come up with that recipe very easily? You could do, like, I've done like tofu with like a little, again, anchovy cooked in there and some like black olives and capers and like different like spicy things like like scallions. So there's a whole lot that you can do. And you can like steam it or like fry it a little bit and um with like a little bit of harissa or like it depends on like what your taste is for the day, which way you want to roll.
And also a nice little piece of fish, with
Oh
a
yeah.
salad, with a wonderful green salad is wonderful for lunch also, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because like a lot of the fish, at least where I buy it, like it only comes in because I buy it from this company that fishes in Alaska, and they're local people, and become friends with the woman for the years. So she always, if she goes to the farmer's market, but if I know that I'm going, I'll specifically ask her to find like the smallest cuts. But I prefer like the middle cuts as opposed to the tail cut, because I find when it gets to the tail, not because it isn't good, it tastes a little bit more fishy. So, but even like a piece of fish like that, that's too much for me to eat in one sitting. I
Yes,
can't do that.
half of it is enough.
So,
Yeah.
so that's like, like I would say, like make it all that same day, unless you like, if it's salmon, there's no reason you couldn't sashimi it. I usually sashimi some for the cats.
Well, and also the sushi, some nice sushi, right?
Yeah, exactly. You make like a little like for whitefish, I like a ponzu dip sauce better. Salmon, then I like, like the shoyu and wasabi.
Mm.
Yeah, I prefer white like raw fish, but it definitely is like good. The cats prefer it without a sauce.
I'm so personally, I'm very glad that we are going back to the traditional microbiotic cooking. We are always go back to it, so I'm delighted. So there is nothing new in it, huh, Suzanne? This is all macrobiotic cooking, very simple and basic and easy, nothing fancy to do. So I'm glad I'm doing it. So I'm very glad.
I don't know about any of you guys, but like I've been to different restaurants. Like, I mean, I've been to French restaurants where, like I've been to like top-notch French restaurants, and like everything's gonna have like some type of sauce on it. And are you gonna get some dairy? Yep, you're gonna get some dairy. You can tell them to lighten it or whatever. But like everything comes out in a very, very small proportion, because there's no way I could eat anything like big like that. Like I can take a dish that's this big and split it with somebody, and I'm happy. It's just very interesting, but like quantity wise. So like that's the key, I think, balancing out in macrobiotic cooking, balancing out a certain amount of richness. But I am not one that likes like a rich sauce on everything. I like some things that are just like very simple and clean and fresh.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I think
I have your book, Suzanne. So I look at it sometimes. So yeah. Good. Very good.
and by all means, if you decide like to make like so don't get me wrong, I do make some longer cooked things, like oftentimes like tonight I it was too long for me to wait to eat, so I just had some steamed I found sourdough tortillas that were a little bit more thick, so it's not like the traditional Mexican tortilla. And it's the first time I've seen them. So I saw them in a whole wheat, and I saw them in like the unbleached white. So I bought both. And I said, can you freeze them? Because I'll never like be able to eat all these tortillas. So I ate like half of one, and then I made a whole one of the other one. I had the hummus that I still made and made a salad. And personally, I'm full. I feel very satisfied, but my evening meals can also just like be like a pasta, or if I want to do a fish, a little bit of couscous or white rice and like a salad. And again, I'm very satisfied. And then just like, a nice glass of wine and some fresh berries afterwards. And it's relaxing. So if you do take time to make a really nice meal like that, and you enjoy things like wine, like um it's just like it kind of again like rounds things out and makes things like feel like just like nice and special, like like you're having this fine luxurious meal but you're at home in your kitchen. And honestly, I do like to go out, but I find that a lot of things I prepare at home are like just as good, if just as good as some of like the really good places, if not like better in a lot of ways. you know I definitely couldn't eat in the like out like in certain places every day. Most of my pasta dishes are better.
Right. Are there any other questions at this time, maybe from someone who has not already asked a question as we're coming in for a close? If not, that's absolutely fine. Of course, we'll be picking back up next week. I'm just gonna just double check in the chat.
Tehran, do we want to like say the different themes?
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna do that.
Oh, cool.
Um, Okay, so yep, at this time we'll just come in for a close as it's about it's a little bit over 45 minutes or so. So we'll be picking back up next week as we mentioned. So this is just the first part of the lecture, and we have 3 cooking classes the next 3 Mondays. So the first one will be the 24th, and then the 1st of July, and then the 8th of July. So there's going to be taking place each week, starting this upcoming Monday. The very first class is going to be entitled Quick Asian Delight. So Susan already alluded to that just a little bit, that we're going to be covering a lot of different things. I think she even mentioned like summer rolls. We'll probably have some cold noodles and different things of the like. And then the next one is going to be a sandwich class. So Susan already mentioned that, some quick Sammys that we can be able to have on the go. And then we're going to be having another class that's going to be about simple and refreshing desserts. So those are 3 cooking classes, the last one being a nice favorite of desserts that we're going to be holding. So if you have not already registered, we do have a bundle for that. Individually, those classes are going to be 25 each, but if you want to do all 3 at once, it's going to be a total of 65. So you're going to actually save a little bit of money there. So just encouraging everyone to be able to do these all at once, and definitely encourage for people to share information about these classes. So if you enjoyed the content that we had here with just this free lecture, as I mentioned, share the recording once that's available. Just let people know we'll be having these cooking classes. They come with the recipes, and you also will have the recording, of course, so that you can go back and be able to do this on your own. Susan, if you had anything that you wanted to share there, and then I have something else that I wanted to mention.
It'll be my secret recipe for ice cream. Kidding.
Okay. So let's just see here. So yeah, we definitely encourage everyone to take part in this. This will be the first of this particular type of series. Right now, we're covering these items, but I know that we're going to even be doing pastas in the future, and I do think we're even going to be covering even a course or class on even Middle Eastern food. So this is just the start. We're going to be doing even more in the month of July and even the month of August as well too. And I'll mention here too, I mentioned in the very beginning, I do not think she is on, but the person who I did for the raffle, what I did is everyone who registered for this course, I threw their name in a little quick online like thing. And the person who actually won for tonight, so they're going to be getting a complimentary registration of our 3 class bundle. Her name is Debbie Gabe. So Debbie, if you're watching this recording, whenever you get a chance, you won, but I'll also make sure to send an email indicating that you'll have access to that So it definitely does pay to register for these free classes as well too, because you never know, you may be able to win a free class, a free cooking class. So thank you to everyone who participated tonight. If you've already registered for those classes, we'll be able to get the links out for those, as the days pass, as well as handouts with the recipes along with that too. So we thank you so much. Your support means everything for us as we continue moving on. It's already halfway through this year. It's hard to believe, and we have a lot more that we want to share with you. I'll mention this really quickly before everyone jumps off. We did have a save the date for our upcoming fall conference. If you have not seen our recent email, a newsletter, that is actually scheduled for November 15th to the 17th. So if you've taken part in any of our conferences, whether it's the summer, spring, or fall, or even our most recent women's health conference, we will be planning another one in about, I guess, a little bit, that's more than 3 months. It's about, it's about like 5 months or so away. So we want to make sure that all of you get a chance to participate. So save that date. And we'll have more information in the coming month about who's going to be presenting and what the theme of that's going to be. So we thank you so much. And feel free to unmute yourself and share.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Susan.
Here.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah, we'll have that conference right after the Phillies win the World Series.
I hope they do. I love the
Wishful
Phillies.
thinking.
That'd be great.
All righty. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Thank
Joanne.
you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Take care. See you next
Thank
week or Monday.